I have lived here for 273 years, and I have never seen a ghost. That's a true story. 6 people beheaded here. 3 of those are Queens of England. But before I tell you about them, let me tell you about these buildings that are now surrounding us on Tower Bridge. Down this path to my right, you're going to come to the Bloody Tower. We're going to see displays of Sir Walter Raleigh and the 2 boy princes we were talking about down at Tracy's Gate. Moving to the right, the impressive Tudor in the corner, that is the King's House. That's one of the last perfectly preserved Tudor buildings we've got left in London. And don't tell me why we've got no more Tudor buildings left. What year? What year was the Great Fire? 1666. Every day's a school day in the town of London. Remember that date because that's in the exam at the end, all right? We do the exam in about 15 minutes, so 1666. Down the home of the Constable of London, General Messenger. He spent 40 years as a Royal Marine. When he retired last August, the Queen was still alive then, God rest her soul, talking about a year last August. She invited him to Buckingham Palace. She said, would you like to live in a Grace's favourite house overlooking the River Thames, be my 161st Constable? He obviously took the weekend to think about it, moved in there on the following weekend. He was the 3rd most important man at the coronation that we had 4 months ago. He was the man that was carrying the black cushion that had the King Edward crown on, that was placed onto the King's head by the Archbishop. The reason I know that is because he was escorted by 6 Beefeaters from the Tower of London all the way down to Westminster, right down the altar to stand next to the King. I was one of those Beefeaters that did that. I'll tell you now as well, that man is a true gentleman. I'm going to tell you why. Because when the coronation finished, the only way to get back to the Tower, because all the roads were closed, was to utilise the river. And because he was an ex-Royal Marine, he took us down onto Westminster Pier, still in his uniform, with his swan feather hat on, as in our state red uniform. We got onto the boat, we commandeered that tourist boat. There was 100 American tourists on that boat. Needless to say, there was many selfies taken. It's a 20-minute journey from Westminster Pier back here to Tower Pier. He bought us 6 Beefeaters, 4 pints of beer each in that 20-minute journey. Now listen, any man that buys me 4 pints of beer in 20 minutes, in my eyes, is a true gentleman. So what a great, great guy he is. That's some very important prisoners incarcerated in there. Queen Catherine Howard, the 5th wife of King Edward VIII. She was held there prior to her execution. Also William Penn, imprisoned for his offensive writings. And even as that prisoner, he compiled the controversial pamphlet, No Cross, No Crown. He was released on condition he left the country. Of course, in the Atlantic he founded
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania needs to be proud of our American friends. British convict, get yourself off to America, thank you very much. Also out in there was the deputy leader of Nazi Germany, Rudolf Hess. He was held in there in May of 1941. What was going on in London in 1941?
The Blitz.
We had the Blitz. We didn't want to lose him. He was a very precious prisoner to us, so we moved him out to Wales at the end of the war for his own safety. The houses that you can see with the green doors either side of the King's House, they're more Beefeater houses for us to live in. That building there is the Beauchamp Tower. That's the main state prison during the Tudor period. Make sure you visit the 2 floors there. You're going to see graffiti on the walls there that's over 500 years old. Moving to the right, the 4-storey residence. That is the home of our tower doctor. Now, if we get poorly at night, we can't dial 999 and get an ambulance. We need to go and see him. And if he can't help us, we pop next door, because that's the residence of the Tower Chaplain. And this is where he works 1 day a week in the Chapel Royal of St Peter ad Beefeater, St Peter in Chains. That padre has got the shortest commute in London. He walks out of that green door for half a day a week on a Sunday morning and works in that church there. When he retires next year, I'm applying for that job. I know nothing about religion, but I'm going to wing it so I can live in that house and work for half a day a week and work in there. What a fantastic job. Building over there is the Waterloo block. That's to celebrate when we beat the French. Hooray. When we beat the French. Hooray. We have very little victories, you know, I think we need to make the most of them. That's now the home of the Crown Jewels and Royal Regalia. If you've not seen the Crown Jewels, you can see that in the summer, it's an hour and a half. every day people say to me, Spike, are they the real crown jewels? Listen, we wouldn't go to all this trouble on 2 thick walls, a moat, 35 beefeaters, 12 armed soldiers, and then King Charles keeps them in his top drawer in Buckingham Palace. They're the real deal, the ones that we use at the coronation, and the ones that we use in the state funeral for the Queen, which is laid at state. By the way, did you see the Queen did every notice on television when she was laid at state for 4 nights and 5 days? She was guarded by 4 beefeaters on the corners of the coffin for those 4 nights. Once again, we took part in that. I have worn the Queen's uniform, now the King's uniform, for 45 years. That's the proudest moment of my career, to stand over the Queen's coffin on that corner there for those 4 nights. It's an amazing experience. And by the way, I will mention our soldiers. They are real British Army soldiers in a real uniform with a real weapon. For some madness reason, tourists come to London. They think it's hysterical to stand on a fence and use the tower, St James's Palace, Buckingham Palace, here in the tower, and stand there and upload for listening to our soldiers. They could have been out in Iraq or Afghanistan. They could be going out to Ukraine, surely. They deserve your respect, so it'd be great if you're all happy to comply with that. Everybody happy to comply with that? Yeah. Fantastic. Now, the sad part, I'm afraid, the execution. The first person to be executed behind me was the second wife of King Edward VIII, Anne Boleyn. She was tried and found guilty on charges of incest, adultery, and even witchcraft. Now, she was beheaded, not with the axe which she feared so greatly, but by her own request, in the French manner, with a 2-handed sword. Lord God, have pity on my miserable soul, were the final words of our most infamous queen. 5 years later, it was the turn of Margaret Pole, the Countess of Salisbury, the last of the Plantagenet family. This lady had committed no crime, she had no trial. So why was she executed? Because she was the mother of Cardinal Reginald Pole, and it was he that the king would dearly love to get his hands on. But the Cardinal, he was safe in Rome, preaching against the king after his break from the Catholic Church. And as the king couldn't get the son, he took his mother instead. This brave 67-year-old lady refused to put her head on the block, so the inexperienced executioner literally hacked it to pieces where she stood. The following year, in 1542, the act was executed twice on the same day. This time the victims were Queen Catherine Howard, the 5th wife of King Edward VIII, and her lady-in-waiting. Now, Catherine was executed for associations with other men, both before and during her marriage. But it was to be her affair with Thomas Culpeper that was proved to be her final undoing. According to popular folklore, her final words were, "I die a queen, but I'd rather die the wife of Culpeper." Jane Boleyn, the Viscountess of Rochford, her lady-in-waiting, she was executed immediately afterwards. Her crime was she knew of the adultery, but had neglected to tell the king. Now, it was to be 12 years before the axe fell again, and this time the victim was the uncrowned Queen of England of only 9 days, Lady Jane Grey. Now, the death of her cousin, Edward VI, she was declared queen by ambitious relatives. Her father and 3 brothers pushed this young 16-year-old girl onto the throne. She was to rule for just 9 days from that White Tower before the rightful heir, Queen Mary Tudor, rode into London. Now, she had her imprisoned in the gentleman jailer's house, number 5 Tower Green, the left-hand green door. And from the upstairs window, she would have seen her young 18-year-old husband, Lord Guildford Dudley, being taken from this Beauchamp Tower and marched up to Tower Hill for his public execution. A short while later, she would have seen his headless body returning to be buried in this chapel. If this wasn't anguish enough for this young 16-year-old girl, she'd also seen the carpenter prepare the scaffold for her very own execution later that same day. Another sad part of the history. Now, those and many more poor unfortunate souls have found their final resting place in this beautiful chapel, the Chapel Royal of St Peter ad Vincula, St Peter in Chains. Now, after St Paul's Cathedral and Westminster Abbey, this is the most important burial site in the country. Many important people were buried with great dignity in those two other great churches. However, this little chapel represents the other side of the coin. Some of the most infamous people in history are buried in there. There would have been no ceremony, no friends or relatives at the graveside, not even a priest in attendance. Altogether, over 1,500 headless bodies lay beneath that chapel. 3 Queens of England lay beneath the altar. Queen Anne Boleyn, Queen Catherine Howard, Lady Jane Grey. Every day people say to me, Spike, is this place haunted? I have lived here for 273 years and I have never seen a ghost. And that's a true story. Now, before you leave me now, I'm going to answer 3 questions for you. 3 questions I get asked on a daily basis in the Tower of London. First one, they say to me, Spike, what does CR stand for on my uniform? And I will emphasise that this is a uniform. It's not a costume or an outfit. I'm not going to be Mickey Mouse tomorrow or Donald Duck the next day. I am number 402 of only 422 people that's ever worn this uniform. More people have been to space than that, which is a quote I use when I'm in a pub on a Friday night. Anybody can be an astronaut, can't? Anyone help me out what the C stands for? Charles, and the R? Rex, Latin for king. We used to be E2R, Elizabeth Regina. Obviously, when the Queen passed, we went into C3R. So obviously, that was a great occasion for us to do the coronation. Second question, people said to me, Spike, how do you get this job? How do you get to be a Beefeater? We are all retired warrant officers from the British Armed Forces, from the British Army, the Royal Air Force, and the Royal Navy. You need to serve a minimum of 22 years military service. I personally did 35 years with the Royal Air Force. If you join with a massive moment, ladies, I joined the Air Force when I was 11 years old. This lady is saying there's no way that man could be 62. And you need the long service good conduct medal. It's a medal on the end here. Leaves you to full military career with honours because you're coming into a place of trust. You're going to be a king's bodyguard, even after the crown jewels. 45 people applied for the position when I came here. I'm the jump that got the job. I was going to get my name painted in gold on that chapel wall when I pass away, where kings and queens are buried. So you can see it's a great honour to be a yeoman warder. And the final question is, why are we called Beefeaters? Now, when you find that out, come back, tell us. Probably comes from way back in the past, 300-400 years ago, when you got a job in the White Tower as a king's bodyguard. People in the local